Mo Goyal, Evertz, Senior Director, International Business Development, Live Media Solutions. Always great to see you. How are you holding up north of the border?
Yeah, Ken, always a pleasure. We're doing well up here. We're doing well. Like I said, the weather's nice. We're getting to that nice warm weather, and hopefully get past this pandemic and back to the stadiums, back to the events.
Exactly. So obviously, Evertz, you have a very broad product line, but we're going to zero in on, one of the more interesting trends I've seen even during the pandemic, which is the growth of interactive experiences and direct to consumer services. Are clearly seems like every 10 minutes there's another one getting launched. How has that impacted your strategy and your product offerings, and where does Evertz kind of fit into the direct to consumer marketplace?
It's a very timely topic. I think just was yesterday, the big merger announcements. So there's definitely a lot of things happening in the direct to consumer, and we've been focusing over the last, I would say 8 months or 9 months, sort of picking up different pieces that fill into that story. So you'd seen the acquisitions of Ease Live as one of those things, our partnership investment into Shot Tracker and a continued development of Bravo, all kind of lead into that, because that's really where the industry is going towards. It's less about broadcasting, but more about getting content directly to the consumer and making that experience that more interactive, that more exciting, so that you can retain that audience a little bit longer. So it's really about that sort of aspect of where we've been now driving a lot of our technology.
Right. So do you see a vision where people are taking like the Shot Tracker and sort of creating a secondary experience with that, or they're more integrating it? There's obviously the broadcast experience, so maybe there's a second one. How do you kind of see that sort of developing as a product service, if you will, to consumers?
Yeah, so it's less specifically about Shot Tracker. Shot Tracker is one of those elements that provides input into that. It's really the combination of Bravo Studio, Shot Tracker, and Ease Live that really kind of pull it all together. Really, one of the big things we're seeing is that, you want to tell more stories from those events. So in some cases, for the larger events, I know you guys have talked about this before with the Masters. There was the CBS broadcast of the Masters. However, if I went to masters.com, I could actually look into different golfers and seeing different holes and stuff like that. So that's really what we're looking at doing, and now bringing that to an OTT platform and such, which is ways to kind of create that unique experience for the individual consumer. So, for example, going back to the Masters, yes, we're going to see the top 5 or top 6 golfers in that broadcast per se. That's the story that's being told. However, as a Canadian, I want to see what Corey Connors, who was in the top 10, where's he doing, right? So let me be able to kind of get a feed that's strictly on him that I can kind of augment, right? So it's ability to augment your main production while giving me the ability to choose what story I want to feed. So things like Shot Tracker enable that from maybe a basketball perspective, where with the probes and the data I'm collecting from the player's movement and the ball movement, then I can create virtual cameras. So it's not about adding more camera people, it's about leveraging that information, that data, to generate that unique perspective or that unique camera view automatically, and then add that as an augmented part of my, not sort of augmented reality, but as an augmented choice to my broadcast.
Right. And it's amazing, because when you think back to what we're discussing here, if you go back a few years ago, the perception was these are all gimmicky kind of things. But now when you talk to the PGA in particular, the goal is international rights, right? The ability to create the Canadian feed that has only Canadian golfers, or is Norway, only Norwegian golfers. And that drives the whole value of the sport up, their deals, and they have more money to do other stuff with the productions. So it's kind of a nice circle.
Exactly. I mean, again, it applies to a lot of different ones, right? So it's about providing something that your audience wants to really engage with, right? So yes, our traditional broadcast has always been a broadcast. It's me broadcasting that message. The initial conversations have been, well, how do I leverage that? My sort of consumers are moving away from my traditional linear path to now doing OTT. But that model of broadcast is really changing. It's not another opportunity for me to broadcast that one message. It's an opportunity for me to engage my customers. So I want them to subscribe as an NBA league. I want them to subscribe on my league pass, and I want to give them something that's unique in addition to that. So whether that's stats, or for example, here in Toronto, we got the Toronto Raptors. We have Yuta Watanabe, who is a big popular Japanese basketball player back at home. So the ability to give the Japanese fans who sign up to maybe the Raptors OTT platform, that ability to kind of get that, hey, let's have a Yuta cam and follow what he's doing, or get some highlights that are specific around him. So it's about tailoring that experience to really keep your audience engaged, therefore providing, a sort of more appealing product to a wider audience.
Right. Well, obviously, I know that we're getting towards the quote unquote end of the pandemic, or whatever we're calling this, pandemic 1.0, let's call it.
Yes.
What's your sense as far as looking at the rest of the year, as far as the sense of optimism, or what's your sense as far as the business and what you're hearing from your customers?
So I think we've started to see that uptake. A lot of stadiums are starting to now go back and saying, okay, those plans that we've put on pause because nobody was coming into the stadiums, we're now seeing a ramp up. So it's the updating of the technologies inside the stadiums. Definitely a lot of conversations now about how do I bring the fans back. There's that initial excitement of everyone wanting to get in. You've seen it, I've seen it on TV. I haven't experienced it personally, but in the States, you've seen a lot of the fans starting to show up. Watching the last couple of rounds or first couple of games of the NHL playoffs, seeing the fans and hearing the fans is part of that. So you have that pent up energy of people wanting to get into the stadiums. But now the next challenge is, how do I keep them there? And how do I recoup the lost revenues of that past year? So it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be, not only do I want the fans in there, but how do I tie their experience there to now additional merchandising, additional subscriptions, or things like that. So I think that's kind of the next step, is as we're doing with the OTT platforms for my broadcast, it's also trying to enhance the fan experience. So taking advantage of potential opportunities with sports books and just creating that uniqueness of that experience. So I think so we are seeing that uptake, that initial uptake of getting into the fans or getting into the stadiums and attending these events. Now the next step is, how do I retain that initial sort of overwhelming wave of people doing it? How do I keep it? Because I think the pandemic has really has shifted what people are now willing to sort of sacrifice time-wise and things like that. I think there's a lot of reshifting priorities. It's now it's going to be that challenge of, okay, how do I retain or recoup some of those, the sort of, not the diehards per se, but the casual fans, right?
Excellent. Well, next time that you're down here or I'm up there and we're here for a big sports event, first beer's on me. Okay.
Nice. Awesome. For sure.
Thanks, Mo. Sounds great. And see you soon.
All right. Take care. Thank you.